Hey guys, I'm Jeff, Scenic Landscaping. We're going to talk about aeration today. What kind of aeration do you do in your yard? Is liquid aeration a scam? Is mechanical aeration the best? How many times a year should you aerate your lawn? Is aeration really that important? What time of year should you do your aeration for your lawn? Let's get into the ways that we do aeration. This is a mechanical core aerator made by Toro. It's a slick little machine. We used to have to do walk behinds. I tell you what, when I found out you could do this, there was no going back. So what it does, it takes out little cores about the size of your thumb of chunks of dirt. And what it does is it allows the dirt to expand. So whenever you pull these plugs out, it breaks through the thatch of the grass, it goes into the soil, breaks it up, gets some of the nutrients down to the bottom, pulls that nutrients out from the bottom, puts them up the top, lets nutrients down into the bottom. It's just basically a full cycle. You know, the funny thing is, you could do this every month and you would have a great lawn. But twice a year is great. Most people do it once a year. But boy, if you could do it more than that, you'd have a spectacular lawn. Now, up north, they do a lot of aerating before they overseed. They aerate the entire lawn. Then they come back and they overseed it with a winter rye. And basically, or a fescue lawn, they can do that either way. So they use fescue, winter rye, all those types of things up north. Now here in the south, where we're at in Arkansas, we don't do that so much. We mainly aerate our lawns, and our Bermuda goes dormant. Now there are some people that go ahead and overseed it, but what we find is it messes the lawn up the next year. It really is hard on a lawn whenever you go and do that. But I tell you what, this Toro right here is the way to go about it. This thing is hydrostatic. It makes your life simple. Now, I was watching a video the other day and I saw where they had a pushing aerator where it actually had a wheel and it had a couple core deals and you could just push it along yourself. In a very small yard, that probably would work pretty good. Now, in a real large yard, I wouldn't go that approach. They make a walk-behind unit that you could aerate your lawn. They work fine. And you could have a small trailer, you could load it up in there, or you could have one delivered. And I tell you, that's what I would probably recommend, just to have one delivered, and I would go ride on every day if you could find one. Those walk behinds will kick your tail. So basically, by puncturing the holes into the soil, you're getting down to the roots. And by doing that, you're letting air get down into there and recirculate some of the air, moisture, everything, and bring a lot of nutrients back up to the top, plus letting new nutrients get to the bottom. So that is one of the great things about aeration. Whenever you aerate, after you get the air to the roots, the next big benefit is whenever you've loosened the soil up, it's going to accept water so much better. And so it helps with compaction. It also helps watering. So whenever you're set up with water, you've already got a little bit better soil absorption. It'll really help in those hot months. All right. So now it helps on nutrient intake. So by getting down to the roots with your plugs, I always try to take about the size of your thumb is what you're going to try to take out. So you're going to take a 2 to 3 inch plug out, you pop it out, and then that's going to help get nutrients down into the lawn, which is going to make a huge difference. So we're going to add air, we're going to add water, and we're going to add nutrients. Great combo for every lawn. Now let's talk about the surface of the grass, and that is called thatch. So what a thatch is basically whenever you're mowing your lawn and you've got everything, all your grass clippings on top, that's called thatch. And so basically what you want to do is whenever you puncture through that, you're already going to desuffocate the lawn. And so it's a buildup of all the grass that you've had during the summer. But whenever you pull that through, you punch those holes through it, you automatically break that up, and then you'll have the 4 ingredients we need to have a great lawn. Now, another thing that you get on this is you're going to get by getting the air, nutrients, water, everything, you're also going to strengthen the roots of your lawn. So anytime that you get all these things going, the roots on your grass are going to get stronger. Just by letting the nutrients and all your fertilizers get down deep into the lawn is going to help immensely. Now, one of the side effects whenever you do this is water puddling. So you're not going to have the puddling on your lawn quite as much because you're going to be able to open up the ground by doing this considerably. So you're going to actually get some extra drainage in your lawn. So sometimes if you see a real hard packed area, after you aerate, the lawn will actually be able to absorb so much more water. It is just a daylight and dark difference on how much water a lawn can absorb that has not been aerated versus aeration. It makes a big difference. Most people do aeration in the fall. Fall aeration kind of goes along with the overseeding up north. And so I assume that's kind of the reason we do it down in this part of the world the same time frame. But there's no real importance except for if the ground is moist in the spring or in the fall, you can get a lot better penetration into the ground. Because whenever July and August, now if you have a sprinkler system or something along that in your lawn and you can really get it moist, then you can do it. But so many yards don't have irrigation that it's actually hard to penetrate. So we won't really get down into a very deep core into your lawn. Now it's a fine line. You don't want it muddy. You want it just moist enough to where it'll pull out a nice sliver core out of the ground. You want it to be able to hold together. So when the fork goes in, it pulls it out, plucks it out. So you want to have a nice, moist, but not wet soil. So let's say out in Oklahoma where it's clay, you probably want to aerate that every year just because it gets so compacted so quickly. That would be one. Now in my area, it's sandy. So I would say every year is not a problem, but you can get away with every 2 to 3 years. That's kind of what we've noticed through the years. I see people doing it. They do it every couple years. You can't aerate too much. So don't be scared to aerate. These are some of the comments I've heard through the years of people and what they don't like about having their plugs laying on top of their ground is it looks bad. So, during the fall, whenever they're sitting there, you're going to have a whole bunch of these plugs laying on top of your ground. And your grass is going to be fairly short, it's dormant, and you're going to see a lot of plugs. Now, one thing to remember is these are going to dissolve over very quickly. So the next few rains, they'll be completely gone. But that is just one thing that people get a little upset about every once in a while. They want to rake them up and get rid of them. Don't do that. Just let them sit there and dissolve back in. It's really good soil because all your real dense soil is in the very inch or two of your topsoil that you broke through. That's where all your nutrients and broke down matter, everything is laying in that section of your lawn. So whenever you break that up, you're bringing it back to the top. So it is really good stuff to leave. So don't ever rake it off, just leave it and let it dissolve on its own. You'll get great results. All right, now let's talk about the other alternative, liquid aeration. This is the other thing that a lot of people have been talking about. There's a lot of chatter about this in the industry. I'm not on board about it, but I wanted to cover it and just kind of go over that there is another option if you want to try it. Now, I do not personally do this, but I've done some research. I've thought about it and I've watched some videos and seen it all. And I can understand kind of the science behind it. I'm not going to bore you with going into all the great details of how it works, but essentially what you've got to kind of think about it as Dawn dish soap. And when it gets into your grease and it breaks that up and then you can wash your dishes, that's kind of what it does with the grass. It's going in and dissolving the soils and different things like that to open up the area to ensure that we get some extra water penetration in the soil. But now one thing about it, it's not an instant by no means. Everything I've read about this, it looks like it could be 2 to 3 months before you see any real results. So it's not a real quick deal. And I would imagine in that same time period that you're going to have to go ahead and do reapplications. I don't think it's going to be a one kind of deal and done. I don't think there's any way it can sit there and last in the ground for long periods of time. Now the pros, it's easy to spray. You could use a backpack sprayer. You could use pump-up sprayer. Now you're going to have to get it evenly across your yard, but that's doable. So that is one nice thing about it is you don't have to worry about getting a clunky machine or anything like that. Everything I've read, it looks like it's going to be less effective in any fashion than core aeration. I think it's a shortcut that you could get in there and do it, but I'm not 100% sure it's going to last long term. So you'll get some short-term results. But with that being said, you're going to have to wait 2 to 3 months to get those results. All right, I'm going to read this right here. Primarily addresses surface tension issues, not soil structure. Results are often temporary and may require frequent reapplications. It breaks down matter on the surface to help water get into the soil to help watering. And that's all aeration is, to help soil get in there, get nutrients, to help water kind of shake things up a little bit. But now with that being said, it's going to be a short-term fix. It's not going to be anything that's going to last for long periods of time, and it's going to take many reapplications. But my true feelings are core aeration really needs to be done, and it's probably going to be the way I stay doing it. I don't see me changing my ways anytime soon in my personal lawns. So guys, I appreciate it. Hope this helps. I'll see y'all next week.